Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I'm going to do an absurd little experiment to get a bunch of flour sand. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, I'm going to dive right into this insanity. Basically, what I decided to do was I wanted to collect a whole bunch of flour sand so that I could make silicone bricks. The way you do that is you have to go out into the sand where there's this white cloud, and you have to harvest it. Now, you can do it in one of two ways. You can grab it with your bare hands, which is probably safer because it won't attract a worm, or you can use this device that basically slams the sand and brings the material to the surface, in which case you can grab multiple chunks of it, 50 or so, I believe. The idea is that I wanted to come up with a way to mitigate the amount of loss that I might experience if a worm came. And so that's what this video is about. So let's dive into exactly what I did and the challenges that came from it and why this was overall a completely absurd idea and probably a big waste of time. The first step involved finding a location that had a reasonable amount of the material fairly close to a place that you could build a base. I then went about building a basic little shack with the lowest level materials. I thought I brought enough with my initial run. I grabbed a whole bunch of stuff to bring with me, and I just intended to keep it pretty low key. Unfortunately, because of this hill, I ended up doing a whole bunch of foundations, and the overall layout, while it definitely worked for what we're doing, was not at all attractive. It is a sub-fief. You can have more than one. So building this place wasn't a hardship. And if I had to abandon it, I wouldn't have been heartbroken because I only used granite stone and some of the scrap metal. Plus, I needed to get some iron ore because I wanted to be able to make the tool to collect the sand with. Mostly, I also worried that if I got eaten by a worm, I would lose the tool and I would need to get another one. So as I was building, I discovered that I had not brought enough from my base. The base was far enough away to the point that I wasn't going to fly back just to grab some, so I thought I'd mine that material here. It wasn't quite that simple, but it ultimately ended up working out. Once I got the base built, I had to square away some storage and some water, and those two things were kind of painful because I didn't bring any copper with me, which is what you need in order to build the water cistern. And of course, I kept running out of the basic materials, even though I finally found some. So ultimately, I just had to improvise and run around and take care of some stuff. And eventually I did end up going all the way back to my base to actually collect some water so that I would have enough to make, number one, the iron ore, because that does take some water. And number two, I needed something to drink while I was running around on the sand trying to get the flour sand. And so that ultimately didn't take too much time, but I should point out that the entire adventure took about 2 hours, mostly due to poor planning. I probably could have done it in less than an hour if I would have, thought it through more than just had a harebrained scheme and decided, hey, you know what I'm going to try? I'm going to try and get a whole bunch of flour sand. But anyway, once I had the water and finished my trip back and forth from the base, I was able to finally give this a shot and try it to see how effective it would be. Would I be able to get it before a worm came? And was I going to get eaten by a worm for sure? Or was it just a possibility? It is one of the more dangerous things to be harvesting. So I was concerned, and that's why I did this in the first place. Now, the first time I got it, I took advantage of the fact that the worms got turned off, and I got an absolute ton of the silicone bricks then. But as I've been playing, I've been getting a little bit low on that initial basically gift. And so it was time to try and find a way to do it legitimately. Now I can say that I was extremely cautious, overly so, because I hadn't been eaten by a worm yet. And so as I got to the point that I was going to go out and take care of this, I realized that this was probably the greatest opportunity to be eaten, especially since I have a thopter and I rarely run around on open sand. But anyway, let's look at the attempts to actually collect the material now. Once I was ready, it was time to dump everything into the pack, get all my gear off, make sure it was all secure, because when the worm eats you, anything that's on you is gone. Of course, I forgot that I would need another container because I filled it up too quick, so I had to grab the construction tool and do just some random ass admin. And then I actually also forgot that the tool itself requires power. I didn't want to use my nice power pack, so I was going to have to get an improv one. My first quick foray, I did use my standard power pack, which was probably a little crazy, but I had extra back at the base, so it wasn't going to be too big of a loss. As you can see, this one was right outside the base for the most part. I got out here, found out I needed power, had to run back, completely had forgotten. This is where I grabbed my normal power pack, tried it, and mostly I just wanted to see how this was going to work. How fast was a worm really going to come? And so I just came out here and got started. You basically shoot the ground and the flower sand comes to the surface, you loot it, and then you run back. I must have heard something because I ran my butt off, got up here, and put away my paltry 147 flower sand, and then a sandstorm came. So I had to stand there and basically wait for it to pass. And this is where it became a little complex. As you're about to see, I came outside and the deposit was gone. My easy to find deposit was gone. So that cut into the plan considerably. Needed to find an alternative source. Now, there were plenty around. There's one over there to the right. There's one over there on the left. So it wasn't so terrible. I had to get out of the sun for a moment and decided that I needed to really rethink my process a little bit. So I basically made myself a window so that I could stand there and contemplate my bad life choices for a few moments. And then I got back out there and I just decided, I'm going to go for this one over here. It seems like I can go at it from the rocks and get there. I was also fairly overconfident because I have the Bene Gesserit sprint, that basically vampire celerity. And I thought, it's safe enough. Now, there was worm sign over there, if you just saw. I basically just started pounding the ground and just tried to make this happen. So I ran over here. And look, there's the worm just staring at me. He's like, hi, how's it going? I got the achievement for the worm staring at me at that point. Now, I made the decision to return to the base because I just didn't like the fact that I was out there in the middle of nowhere. It was a little rough. Now, there's something I didn't take into account. My hydration was low, so my stamina was also low, which meant that I could not sprint as long. So I needed to get to my base, and I thought, I've got this. Now, there were other ways I could have gone. I could have gone around. I could have done a lot of things, but I chose to go straight. And the worm came up behind. My sprint was running low. It almost happened, and boom, got eaten. Now, just for fun, here is the moment where the worm didn't get me, and he gave me the stare down. This is where I got the achievement. Just, regular speed for you. He just stared there, and gave me some guff before turning around and burying himself back in the sand. And let's also take a quick look at my moment where I got eaten. And chomp. So being eaten actually caused me some more grief than I'm letting on here. I had to build a new vehicle reclamation tool because I couldn't respawn back at my new base. It was just erroring out, so I had to respawn at my old base, build that device, get my vehicle out, fly back to this location, blah, 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 all that great stuff. Now, the cool thing is that when I got back, the original field of flower sand had returned, and I was able to just go about harvesting again without really too much trouble. In fact, this is how I had hoped it would go, but obviously I had my worm adventures. But for the most part, I walked away with quite a bit of the material. Shortly after I started, it became clear that on the very edge of the flower sand deposit, you could collect as much as you want without the worm being notified. There's no worm meter down there, and it didn't attract him at all. So I was able to get plenty. So there are plenty of places apparently where you can actually go that the deposit is so close to the rocks that you could actually grab as much as you want, like I'm doing here, and not worry about being attacked. So the grand experiment of build a base, grab a bunch of this flour sand, it really was ultimately unnecessary. It probably wasn't necessary even without this slight life hack that I'm experiencing, as you see on the screen right now. It's hard to get eaten by a worm if you take some care. You know, I went above and beyond here, mostly just for fun and to see what it would be like. But again, it wasn't entirely necessary. Fun as it was, I did have a good time doing it, and I did get eaten by a worm, which was my first time. I unfortunately made a bad decision when it happened, so I didn't get an achievement. I had to load up my old character and do that, but that's a totally different story. And if you're curious about what I'm talking about, just look up on Google about being eaten by a worm if you want a little spoiler, or go out and get eaten by a worm for the first time and check it out yourself. It's an odd thing to suggest. But anyway, that's all I wanted to show today, was just this crazy adventure and let you know what I was up to. Have you done anything insane in Dune that's just been off the wall? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. This is Robert with Society Case Files signing off.